In our introduction in the previous chapter, we discussed the flimsy partition between our past and our future. Reality testing is a complex series of events which include our present experience and comparison with past. If you remember, I said that experiences consist of the dyad we know as thoughts and emotions. They are very much like the wave and particle theories that come to explain matter in physics. Let's go into that in more detail. The way we think, act and feel are all split into two. The two are what we are aware of and what we are not aware of. Don't forget the subconscious houses another set of memories containing, as you will have guessed, the way we felt, thought, and behaved in the series of events which make up our experiences. How we think? Let's consider just one aspect of experience, how we think. Yes, I know I spoke about thoughts and emotions as a continuum, but it is easier for both of us if we just use the cognitive model now. In fact, our conscious cognition consists of two channels. One contains the thought we are aware of, and the other of what we are not aware of. Later I will explain how emotions fit into the picture. Don't worry, the picture and explanations are very similar. Our thoughts as we think them need no explanation. We live with them every woken second of the day. However, there is a different kind of thinking which is going on in the background. The thoughts behind the curtain. We can look behind the curtain if and when we wish, but we usually do not. These behind the curtain thoughts have a name. The name is automatic thinking. What is automatic thinking? It is three things: constant early alarm system consisting of radar and a battery of choices, beliefs, and daydreams. For now, just think of automatic thinking as an ever-present radar system which is continually scanning our horizons. Let me give an example. We are sitting in a room where we are not aware of the door. If the door was suddenly to catch fire or smoke appeared under the door, we would become very aware of the door. In other words, we are perpetually taking an inventory of what is going on around us. We are simply unaware of it. This is one of the roles of automatic thinking. It is a watchdog. When we were in the jungle, it allowed us to be aware that a lion may be approaching. In a later chapter, we will expand this even further and suggest that there are types of automatic thoughts. Even more so, we will then suggest how they may go wrong and how we can correct the mistake they are making. It is important to note now that automatic thinking will pass by unnoticed even when it's making a mistake, because we are not aware of the mistake. When you, the pilot, learn to question the process behind the curtain, you will become amazed at just how many mistakes it is making. We have just discussed the core principle of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. These assumptions are not only basics of CBT, but give insights into a different way of giving CBT, as you will see fully later on. We are consistently surrounded by non-aware thinking. In a similar manner, we are awash with feelings and emotions, neither of which we are aware of. Both of which, like thoughts, we can become aware of. This is the first time I have used the words feelings and emotions in the same sentence. They are not interchangeable. In my explanation to David, I would want him to understand that there is a difference between them and be able to distinguish between them. Automatic feelings are in fact emotions. Stop for a second and consider this. If we are aware of an emotion, it is no longer an emotion. When we have added to it a cognitive or thinking aspect, we know what that emotion is. We designate the emotion with a conscious thought. It is now a feeling. Let me show off a little. In physics, there is a great concept called the uncertainty principle. One of its consequences is if you measure or quantify something, you change it. That is in the purest of sciences, physics. I'd be telling David now, you see lad, there's now to be ashamed of. One of Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker Guide to the Galaxy starts by stating there is a theory that when someone will understand every physical rule in the galaxy, it will all change. On the next page, Adams claims that there are those who claim it has already happened. Let's proceed. To make things complicated, we may not be aware that we have been given a conscious thought. Why is this distinction important? Thoughts and cognition can be arranged sequentially in time. We will deal with this extensively in pathology. Just for now, make a mental note and be ready for a fuller explanation later. Another concept has come into view. The linkage between the subconscious and the non-aware part of our conscious is our emotions. You remember that we possess two levels of conscious thought, those of which we are aware and those which we are not. To give a personal example, I may not be aware that a lady is attractive, but I start making a fool of myself, making everyone aware. The domain of aware is entirely cognitive in nature. Even if we have a feeling, it is a feeling we are aware of and thus is now represented to you as a thought. A feeling is an emotion plus cognition which has crept from our lack of awareness to our awareness. Anything in awareness has a cognitive label. The emotion is now a feeling. If we have time, we add a thought from our cognitive repertoire and decide what to do. If we do not have time, we run like hell. But we are aware of the feeling. We are not aware of a pure emotion. They are stored as dreams. In other words, there are 4 stages, an emotion of which we are unaware. It is housed in our subconscious and drawn from experience. Emotions can and do enter the non-aware conscious. It is essential that they do, as you will soon see. In the non-aware state, the emotion becomes a feeling which can become relevant or not. It can become relevant and is acted on. It can be acted upon and still remain the automatic everything. Now, this may sound to you to be very complicated and splitting hairs. I know it's hard, and I also know it seems as if I am repeating myself. I'm doing this deliberately because I know how hard it is to explain and to fully grasp what I'm saying. I've been playing around with these thoughts for many decades, and I do not expect to be able to explain them in such a way as you can understand by putting all of it down at once. So be patient and let me recap again. Thoughts and feelings exist in the part of our existence which we are aware of. If we are not delirious, our reality testing will have put them in order and sequence. You will understand more later. Switching from non-aware to aware. We are about to add something very important, switching from non-aware to aware. I said that we are unaware of part of these processes. In life, we have 2 tracks in our conscious mind. On one track we are aware, and on the other, we have a tracking process of which we are unaware. How do we change tracks? For some of us, we change tracks far too easily and we get labeled as having ADHD. For the less fortunate, they get belted with Ritalin. As a proud ADHD-labeled person, let me tell you, I wear the badge of ADHD with honor. We are a threatened minority. We can do much more than you who poison us. We can multitask, tell jokes, and see things you straights cannot. What I did now was pure ADHD-. I wandered off the point to make a point. Let's put the 2 tracks, aware and non-aware, together. Let's go back to the jungle. Imagine we are in the jungle happily eating a coconut. In my case, I would not be so happily eating a coconut because my previous experience of eating coconut has given me enough experience to realize it gives me a bout of irritable bowel syndrome. But in your case, I hope you are more fortunate. In the jungle, you happily munch at your coconut, and suddenly you are aware and anxious. You look up from the coconut and see leaves moving. You throw the coconut at the emerging lion and run like hell. Congratulations, you have just survived. What happened? What have we learned? Apart from, thank God, we didn't have Ritalin in the jungle. Your radar picked up something. Maybe it was a rustle. It may be the slightest movement. It doesn't matter what it was, does it? Your radar system operating as the second cognitive channel, and your non-awareness detected something. It designated this something in accordance to, I hope you've guessed, your experience. From deep down in your memory and experience in your past, you don't have time to recall the events and bring them into your awareness. The lion is far too fast, and if you did that consciously, you wouldn't survive. Automatic everything is much faster than thinking it through. Let me give you another example how automatic behavior is more advantageous. Try walking in a straight line, but before you move, say what you are about to do exactly and then do it. You will fall over. In the jungle, we developed an amazing workaround to the slow thinking process. There is a shortcut whereby an emotion is recalled far more quickly than we can think. Do you remember we said that emotions have no time or spatial constraints? In the automatic feeling part of automatic everything, they are there and ready. Stored emotions from dreams are stored as feelings. In one package of functions, feeling fires up the autonomic fear, fight and flight mechanism and drags the conscious aware thinking process to the object of which you were not previously consciously aware. We change cognitive tracks because a feeling came into play. In parallel, we are initially acting and feeling automatically. We have thrown the coconut, fired up our adrenaline, and gone into the fear, fight and flight mechanism, which was the way we survived in the jungle because there was no Ritalin. What I'm trying to say is that whilst we are thinking, we are in a permanent state of arousal, being prepared to be aware of what may threaten us. We see the tandem of how experiences are brought into play by this radar, which immediately classifies the blip on the screen with the appropriate feeling. At that point, our awareness changes and our emotions become feelings. But the process is automatic, and can and often is not reacting efficiently. Now imagine if neither the feeling or thought ever escaped through the curtain from non-aware to aware. We behave to a stimulus in a way which we gave little so-called conscious thought. You may not be aware of your behavioral reaction. Your neighbor smiles in the way your favorite aunt smiled. You unawarely smile back and the smile is returned. Your wife complains that you are flirting, and you become aware of the pleasant disposition you feel to the neighbor. No, I just like her, she reminds me of my aunt. Of course, this scenario could run several less innocent ways. Before ending this chapter, I want to make one minor diversion. I want to emphasize how the interplay between our present and our past is governed by the automatic everything. We have a repertoire of behavioral and emotional responses, and they are brought into play before we have consciously thought about them. You probably have noticed that the way we think, behave, and feel are all products of what went before. Go back to the jungle. What do you think is going to happen next? After we see the lion, we will probably have very bad dreams about what happened. From what we have discussed above, you know that is a very good thing. It is going to enrich our experiences. Later, I will explain how this process can also become pathological. We call it PTSD. Something else happens. We want to avoid fear. We want to know how we can avoid the lion. As a clan, we sit down and discuss how can we avoid the lion. We make suppositions. If we do a certain thing, if a certain thing happens, then we can avoid the lion. Two things happen. We started a process called believing. They are based on some facts, some hopes, and real needs. Beliefs sit, most of the time, in our unaware part of the conscious. They are automatic pilots par excellence until a lion mauls someone, and then we develop new beliefs. Beliefs have two peculiar attributes. They can invade our aware conscious, although they fill no real primary survival function. More importantly, they have an intrinsic value. If they are lost, we behave as if we have lost something which is part of us. Death before dishonor says it all. Look at religious wars, how they start and why. We will discuss this later. Unfortunately, we will not solve them. Let's summarize. I want to emphasize that I'm explaining slowly and letting the process develop. It may seem that I am repeating myself, and in many respects, I am, and deliberately so. I will explain why I'm repeating myself when I discuss therapy. But I must emphasize that every time I repeat something, I add another aspect. I fear that I may become boring. I don't know what is worse, confusion or boredom. I prefer boredom because I think it's easier to overcome boredom than confusion. We have seen how automatic everything works and how, in the present, our reality testing keeps us in touch with reality as it is happening and yet, is plugged into the possible changes going on around us. More importantly, it has a battery of feeling and behavior patterns to draw on before we are conscious of the danger around. I want you to notice one last thing before we finalize this chapter. Have you noticed that I'm talking in terms of survival? There is much more to life than surviving. We want to do so much. We are biologically wired to achieve and aspire to a myriad of things that we take for granted. Don't worry, we will